Hi, welcome back to Art and Soul. My name is Mike Severin. I'm so glad you could join me again today. Before I get started on painting, I wanted to remind you that if you ever miss one of the episodes, I do have everything on YouTube, and you can look it up, Art and Soul Mike Severin, and you will find all of the listings of the shows. So if you happen to miss one, no worries. You can always catch it on there, and of course I'm on Facebook and my email address, and I love getting responses from the email, which that makes me feel good. That lets me know people are watching and the show is having an effect on them, and that's really what this is all about. So last week we started this painting. It is just this kind of nice little landscape here with this meandering little stream that comes down with a little waterfall here towards the foreground, and started putting in some trees last week, and we can probably put in some more limbs, and we'll probably do that in a minute. But we're working with our basic 16 by 20 canvas, which we use all the time. We're using oil paints today, and I'll go through the paints that we've got on the palette, and I've got a few more than normal on there. I've got our cad yellow, our sap green, titanium white, alizarin crimson, got some straight black, our burnt sienna, cobalt blue, yellow ochre, and our dioxazine purple. So with that, let's get started. So what we need to do is we need to develop what we've got going here. We've got our nice mountains and range in the background there with our sky, and we started with our middle ground a little bit, and some of you actually caught this, that I missed the area over here, and I'll show you why in a second, because we're going to take and fill that in with something. I think you'll understand why here in a minute. So let's take and get some of our limbs that we started last week, kind of get some of that developed a little more, and then we'll continue. And I'm just going to go straight into that burnt sienna, maybe with a little bit of yellow ochre, and I've got the paint thinner, obviously thinning that down, trying to get that ink-like consistency that I talk about all the time. And I have that pretty good. And I just want to put in just a few more limbs that are in here, we're going to put some leaves in a minute, and this will make a little more sense, I think, to you. I think I may leave this one here. It looks kind of like maybe a one that's kind of dead there, and I think we'll probably just leave him alone. And this color is a little lighter than what we used last week when I was putting these limbs in, but that's okay, because a lot of these are going to be actually covered up with the leaves that we put in here in a minute. And I'll just put in a few more added. I just want a little more dimension to it when we start putting in our leaves. And I tell you what, I'm going to change it up. I was going to do something in here, but I think I'm just going to change that up, and I think we're just going to put a limb here. And I know that wasn't what I was going to do, but hey, that's I talk about it all the time. That's the fun of this process, is, you're not tied to anything, and if you decide to change your mind, there's nothing wrong with that. So we've added just a couple more limbs there, which is probably enough for what we're going to do. And while I've got this on out here in the brush, I want to take some of the left side of our tree and where the highlight would be, and we're going to take and just put in just a little bit of this lighter color, and we need to kind of figure out where our light source, and we're going to come with it coming in from our left. So we're just going to take I'm just scumbling with that burnt sienna down the side of the tree, and bring in a little more paint. And all this is doing basically is it's just kind of making the bark on these trees pop out a little bit better. Just to make it look like there's a little bit of a highlight that's hitting where the sun might be hitting on the edge of those trees. And you can do this with a palette knife. Palette knives kind of give a really neat effect because of it being rough. It almost takes on the look of what you would have with the bark. I think that's why I like doing the birch trees all the time, is because I think I just love the way it looks. So as you can see, I have just kind of scumbled a little bit of that on the sides of the trees. Not a whole lot, and you could develop this more if you wanted to darken up the right side of the tree to give it a little more of a three-dimensional feel to it. You could sure do that. But for right now, I think we're just going to leave it like that. And I'm going to clean my brush out really quick, and we're going to go into some of our gray. We're going to do kind of a little highlight on a couple of those rocks, and I've just got some titanium white with just a touch of that black. That's the Mars black. And we'll just kind of the tops of a few of these rocks, just kind of bring in a few little highlights across the top. Just again, we're putting it up there on that left side of the stone. This is a really simple little painting, but you could go a lot of different directions with this. You know, if you wanted to put a cabin in here, you could do that. I think for our purposes, what we're going to do is we're going to put in kind of some wildflowers out there that'll really pop, I think, and make that look really, really nice. So I'm going to put in some of these rocks that are highlights on those that are back there behind those trees. And of course you could have, I could have done this before I put in the trees. It would have probably been easier, but that's okay. This is, all of this is a learning curve, and you'll find as you do this that it's, and I'm just grabbing just a touch of that sap green because I want to bring that down here. And if you notice, what I did there was, because I had that gray on the canvas or on the brush, it mixed with that green, which is what I wanted, and it gave us kind of a light green, which is gonna be really nice to make it look like it's the sun is maybe highlighting and hitting a few of the grassy spots there. I really enjoy getting the emails from people and seeing pictures of what you're painting, and I've had several people ask me if I would critique their work, and as I've got time, I would be more than happy to do that. I can't promise that I can always do that, but if I have the chance, I would be more than happy to do that for you. And not that I'm any sort of an expert, and I've said it before. I just am very passionate about this, and hoping that maybe you will become passionate for it yourself. So we've got a little bit of grass there that's behind those trees. So now I want to take and I'm going to put in some of these leaves that are up here, and we're going to do kind of a combination of colors. And I'm just grabbing a big bristle brush. In fact, I think what I'll do is I'm going to get something even bigger. I'm going to go with my little 1-inch brush. And so I'm going to grab my sap green, and I'm going to bring in a little bit of that cad yellow just to make a real kind of a light green there. And I'm loading up my brush pretty good. I'm not over mixing that paint because I want kind of a combination of colors on there. And I'm just going to take and just dab and moving the brush around different angles so that I don't get the same exact pattern all the time on there. And don't be afraid to, constantly be reloading. And we don't want to kill all of our sky that's showing in there. So we want to, it's kind of one of those things that we want to find a happy medium between what's enough and what's not enough. And one of the things that I do with my students all the time is I tell them, step back from your painting. It looks one way when you're up close to it, but when you step back, a lot of times it looks totally different. And so I think that if you do that, you'll find that it's going to help you a lot in your painting, just by taking that few minutes to step back. They say that the average viewing distance for a painting is 6 foot, so kind of keep that in mind. And this area I was talking about down here, where I didn't do much with that middle ground, we're just going to take and we're just going to bring in a bunch of leaves into that area. It's a quick, easy solution for that. It's kind of a nice ice stopper as well. And so I'm just continuing on. You can probably hear it. I mean, I'm hitting the canvas pretty good with the bristles of the brush. And very quickly, as you can see, we've made a really nice little series of trees with very little work. And I'm going to go now straight into my cad yellow, and I'm just going to come in just a few spots on this left side, just in a few little spots here and there, just to give the idea that maybe the sunlight is hitting some of those leaves. You don't want to overdo this. This is one of the things that I think a lot of people, when they start putting in highlights, they have a tendency to like it so much, and they start overdoing it, and it's really easy to have happen. So that looks pretty good. I kind of like the way that's come together. And so now back here in this middle ground, I want to bring in, like I said, I want to do some wildflowers. And how we do that is, because this is so far back, you're not going to see a whole lot of detail with that. So we basically do the same thing. And if you notice, I did not clean my brush. It's still got some of that green and yellows in there. But what I'm doing is I'm going to grab just a little bit of the titanium white to add to that. And I'm not over mixing that. I've got a good combination of yellow, or the purples and the whites in there, and some lavenders. And I'm basically just going to touch a few spots, just like we did when we put the grass in last week. I'm just kind of just putting a few little dabs with the brush across, and by doing this, it is very effective of making it look like there's some wildflowers that are growing in that little meadow that's back there. That looks really nice. I like that. Maybe just a few little taps farther back We don't want, because obviously the farther back, the less detail we're going to be able to see. But I like that. That looks nice. Soften that up a little bit there. Maybe that's, in fact, let's just take, this is the process of painting. You know, I didn't like that area, so we'll just put a bush in there. And, you know, I'm just grabbing some of that sap green and yellows that are on there. So it just gives us a nice dark color, and that kind of really fills that in, makes it look pretty nice across there. I like that. So now we need to develop this up here in the foreground. But before we do that, I want to take and just touch a few spots here on our little stream that's meandering through there. And to do that, I'm just going to grab some titanium white and just straight titanium. And I just want just a very light hint of, we're just going to just graze this back here in the background, right on the top of the water, just to kind of make that where the sunlight might be hitting it, and it's going to pop a little bit better. And we don't need a lot, just need just enough to give that reference that that's what that is back there. As you can see, there's not a whole lot that's actually coming off of the brush into the water, which is fine. I don't want to overkill it. And then we'll put some more down here. And I want to take and make that just a little more. Remember, we did those comma strokes or half moons last week, and I want to do the same thing basically across here. A little more coming down into the water, and then right there underneath of it, we want to have that little bit of a splash that where the water's kind of churning a little bit as it's coming off of those little waterfalls. And just by brushing the bottom of it just a little bit, it just makes it soften up a little bit, and that's what we want. And you can add as much of that or as little as you would like to make that work for you. Maybe you want more water than that, and that's okay too. You know, it's a process that we do that. And I just went into a different brush, and I want to bring in just a little bit of that titanium white. And there's still a little bit of that green that's still in that brush, which is fine because we're going to bring that green up in between some of those rocks just to make that look like a little grassed area that, you know, maybe little sprigs of grass that are popping up in there. And maybe just a little bit. I picked up some of that brown that was up here and just bringing that down in here. By adding colors that you've got in one part of the painting, by incorporating those into another area, it really makes it blend, and it brings continuity to the painting. And you know, that's what we're trying to do here, is we're trying to make this look like it would be as much in a natural setting as possible. I like how that looks. I think that looks good. These rocks probably need a little more pop to them, and so I'm just gonna just work those just a little bit more. I just grabbed some black, and I'm just touching a few spots on the backside just to make those highlights pop out a little more and distinguish out our rocks. You know, and at home, you know, you've got all sorts of time that you could take and work this as much as you would like. And unfortunately, we don't have a whole lot of that time available on the show. So, you know, take your time at home and do those little detail things that make the painting complete, that unfortunately, I don't have the luxury of doing all of those on the show. It's always kind of a frustrating part for me because, you know, something that might take me 5 or 6 hours to do at home in the studio, I can't do that on the show here. So it's a little frustrating, but at least if I can give you the basics and the principles, then you can take that and work that into your own studio at home. So we've got pretty much our sky and trees, our middle ground taken care of, and our stream. So now I want to take and develop out now this foreground. And how we're going to do that is we're going to go right back into that big brush, and I'm going to bring in some more green here and get that on the palette really quick. And I know I'm cheating because I've showed you how we make our greens by the blue and yellow, but I do it this way just to make it a little faster and easier than trying to mix it for you here in the studio. So, but if at home, you know, you can do that yourself and make those colors. We're just going to bring in just a few little layers of grass that are here in the background. And again, if you notice, I'm not killing all of that underpainting that we put in. And the reason why is because that is what gives us a nice base that we can work on, and it pops through, which is the whole point of doing it. Is most people don't realize that, especially in oil painting and acrylics, it's those layers of colors that give it the depth that it does in the end. So I'm just alternating back and forth between the yellows and greens here, just to give this little grassed area up front here. And go back into some green with a little bit of the yellow. And remember, we're always trying to do that, or we're going dark against light, light against dark. And by doing that, that gives that illusion of the depth. That's what this whole process is about, basically, that's what painting in a lot of ways is it's giving the illusion of something. The eye will take care of it and figure it out if you've got the basics that are there and in place. Maybe just a little bit of green in there right along that trunk of that tree. And you can, just by tapping, you can make this as soft or as light as you would like. Maybe you want it to be very dramatic. You can sure do that. But what I want to do is I want to bring in some nice color pop into this. And so I'm not too worried about making it all perfect along there. I want it more soft because I want the color pops to come in. And this over here, I'm just not quite happy with that. So I'm just going to grab some of that yellow still got some of that green on the brush. And I just want to bring in some color into that bush that's there. I think, yeah, that looks a lot better. Maybe even a few little spots on the top of that where the sun might be hitting it. Looks pretty good. I like that. Now, because I didn't do that grassed area before I put the trees in, if you've noticed, I've got green onto my tree, and that's not a problem. And I did that intentionally, just so that you can know. A lot of people get all stressed when they do something like that, and they panic. But we just go into our black with some of that burnt sienna, and on that dark side of the tree, we just come down and we redefine that bark out a little more. Reestablish that. And just as simple as that, we've taken care of that problem. So now what we're going to do is I want to take and bring in that color pop that I was talking about. And we put in these flowers that are back here in the background, and we're going to do some of that up front here. And only what we're going to do is I want to bring in that purple, but I'm going to do this. I don't know what the names of this flower is, and I'm sure somebody out there knows, but they've got kind of lavender, but they've got this, or purple, but they've got these little white things that are on them as well. And so I'm just taking and just putting in some of these. It needs a little more of the purple in there. It's got the whites, but we need the purple in as well. Yeah. And I don't know what these are called, so forgive my ignorance of my flowers, but wildflowers. But by doing that, it really looks really quickly like you're getting those flowers in there. It looks like we're going to run out of time before we're able to get all of those in, so we'll just finish this up next week. You know, right now we've got the presidential elections that are going full swing, and there's a lot of accusations and things that are being thrown out against different candidates, and conflicts that are back and forth. And it reminded me of a little situation that I was asked to interview for a job teaching, and I submitted in all of the information to the company, and I got a call in for an interview and went in, and they were asking me some questions, and the gentleman said, well, after about 15 or 20 minutes into the interview, he said, well, second or third hand information, we found out some things about you that were not really that great. And he starts telling me what had been told to him, and I sat there in shock because of some of the things that were being said. And after, I was just embarrassed and frustrated, and all sorts of different emotions were running through my head. After he got done, I said, well, it sounds like you've already made your decision about whether or not I have the position or not. And he said, no, he said, I wanted to tell you that because of that, we did some checking and found out that those accusations were wrong. And he said, you're here because you passed that test. Be careful what you say about people. Make sure that your words are accurate. Those candidates that are running for election have to deal with that all the time. It's hard when it comes at you. Be understanding of the people around you and the words that you say. Until next week, have a great creative week. Blessings to you. And CJ, as always, I love you.